Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Delta Report. I have two subjects I want to talk about today on the Delta Report. And one's got to do with fertilizers, and the other's got to do with some mysterious red lights that have been showing up. I mean, we're talking small red lights, red as red can be, and over an area of maybe 100 miles or more. Strange red lights nobody has an explanation for. So let's get started. Let's open up the charts right here and take a look at what's going on. I want to show you guys these red lights. Now this is like looking from 35,000 feet up, looking down, and of course it's so high. I mean, at 35,000 feet, you're not in space, but you're up really high up, And so even though they don't look very big from here, I mean, they're really absolutely huge. Let me see what the story says about these. It says, pilot spots mysterious red glow in clouds over the Atlantic Ocean. And the images have also linked to sorry fishing, but I don't necessarily buy that about this is fishing that's causing these lights. Here's another image of the lights. It says a mysterious fiery red glow in the clouds captured as a pilot is flying above the Atlantic Ocean is going viral on social media. The spooky video was captured last Friday and has sparked debate among social media users. Some say it signifies the end of time, while others are comparing it with Upside Down, the nightmarish parallel dimension on Netflix hit show Stranger Things. The photos have been posted on several social media platforms, including Reddit. The user who posted these images on Reddit quoted the pilot as saying that he has never seen anything like it. So it's a red glow seen over the Atlantic Ocean on July 2022, which is actually this month. However, it says there's no details about the pilot or who or why he was flying over the Atlantic and where he saw the eerie scene. So it says some users, however, have pointed toward a more practical reason. They're saying fishing boats that uses red lights to attract fish. They say they believe it's fishing vessels using strong red lights to attract a certain type of fish called a sorry. It says sorry fishing traditionally practiced in the Pacific Ocean involves the usage of huge red lights to attract the fish. I'm not really buying that. I'm going to explain to you why. First off, I looked at these photos, and I've come to the conclusion that we're looking at real photos from at upper altitude in a Airbus. An Airbus is a big... They don't use the smaller planes to fly across the Atlantic. First off, fuel, They need a large plane that has a large fuel consumption to take them all the way across the Atlantic or the Pacific. They generally use an airplane called an Airbus. And numerous times I've been on Airbuses. And, they're big, they're jumbo. They also call them a jumbo jet, And they can get up to speeds of like 680 miles an hour, and altitudes of like 35,000 feet. And when you're looking out a window of an Airbus, it has a certain look to it. And I've seen it many times, that look, a certain look of the photos. And these photos are Airbus photos. I can tell by looking at them. And no, I don't think they're photoshopped or anything like that. But also at the same time, I'm looking at the circumference of the area here that these red lights are taking up. And it's over a very wide area. I'm just going to quickly estimate it. I'm going to estimate it as much as 20 miles wide and as much as maybe 70 or 80 miles long, this area of red. Looking down from this height. See, height equals distance. When you're up 35,000 feet, objects appear very small. But these are very large, indicating they're over a very wide area. So fishing boats, red lights, it would require fleets and fleets and fleets of fishing boats with red lights to accomplish this. So what really are we looking at? I mean, I've seen forest fires accomplish this feat of creating red lights at night like this. If they're over a wide area, large forest fires could make lights similar to this. But this is over the ocean. You're not going to have a forest fire over the ocean. So I guess it's a mystery for now. We're going to move on here and we're going to talk about something else. We're going to talk about fertilizer. I know, maybe that's not all that interesting to a lot of people out there, but Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, he is planning to slash Canadian fertilizer use in a similar move to the Netherlands. And you know what that does? The consequences are described as disastrous. It says over the past few weeks, farmers across the Netherlands have vehemently turned up in droves to protest the government's plan to reduce nitric oxide emissions, arguing it would have disastrous consequences for their businesses and eventually for consumers. So we can see all the farmers lined up here in the Netherlands. But here in Canada, they're planning on doing the same thing. It's the Netherlands. It says in 2020, the Trudeau Liberals announced that their goal was to reduce emissions from fertilizer, a major producer of nitrous oxide, by 50% over the next 8 years. Now, I'm just going to state the bluntly obvious. It should be clear. The world is going into a food shortage, worldwide global food shortage, partially caused by an enormous war that's broken out in Ukraine and cutting off wheat production. I heard Odessa got hit by a missile or something. Just, and grain prices are going up. There's a lot of countries right now facing starvation. We got at least 3 million people out there starving right now, caused by this situation. Now, I'm just going to ask a very simple question. I mean, unless you're brain dead, you must know that if you cut fertilizer from farmers, that their yield is going to drop. And this is going to make the situation of food shortages worse. So, instead of 3 million people starving like they have right now, they could have 6 million, 12 million, 24 million people starving. So which is more important? To reduce emissions or people's lives? It comes right down to that question. And it says that it's okay, it's talking about the difference between your yields and crop sizes, It says by this time, yield gaps for the three major crops are estimated at 23.6 bushels per acre per year for canola, 67.9 bushels per acre per year for corn, and 36.1 bushels per acre per year for spring wheat. Evidently, is this a difference? Yield gaps? In other words, from what I understand, I think that they're going to yield less per acre by going with this costlier, greener fertilizer. It's going to translate to higher prices for consumers as well. It says under the plan, farmers will likely be forced to move to use costlier, so-called greener fertilizer, and use smaller yields. Because of reduced crop sizes. Nobody's arguing anything about this, that the crop sizes are gonna, that nobody's saying, okay, the crops are going to be larger if we use organic fertilizers over these industrial fertilizers. I think everybody knows that crop sizes are going to be less as they have to move over to these costlier fertilizers. do now. There's been an awful lot of talk about science, the science of this, the science of that. I mean, we moved into this COVID era, and they're saying the science says we got to do this. Well, I'm just going to tell you something simple fact about life. You don't have to do anything. The world, every single person on earth out there does not even have to breathe. But, I mean, there's consequences. 4 minutes from now, every person on earth, if they stopped breathing right now, they'd all be dead. It'd take about maybe 4 to 10 minutes. But they don't have to. You don't have to do anything. You either do things or you don't do things. You don't have to do it. You don't have to follow in the line of reason of thinking that you have to do something because X is going to happen if you don't do it, because of this what they call the science. It's been proven over and over again through history that oftentimes science is wrong, and so the action you take is wrong as well. Just take a look at bloodletting in the Middle Ages. A person was sick. Well, you need your blood to survive. You go into the doctor and he say, you're sick, I'm going to have to drain your blood. That was the science of the day. And we all thought that it was right. Turns out it was dead wrong. And it cost a lot of people their lives because the doctor drained too much blood out of them when they were already sick. And it didn't work. The science is no better today. This is the science. You don't have to do anything in life. The truth is, we all believe we have to do this, we have to do that. Maybe somebody is doing something that they shouldn't be doing, but they think they have to. I have to do this. And maybe they don't even want to do it, but they do it regardless because they think, well, I have to do it. And oftentimes science is behind this, and so we have to start questioning our science more. Is our science really correct? And when the science is wrong, do we go back and do we review the science and say, hey, we got it wrong? No. Oftentimes we just accept and we keep moving on with science that doesn't make any sense. Period. So their science is telling them here that they can't use the fertilizer that they've been using all along. That's what their science is maybe telling them. I don't know. But is the science correct? What would be the potential problem if they continued to use the fertilizers they've been using? And the other side of this argument is that which I'm making is that we can see the obvious and we know it's true. We know that there's an awful lot of starving people out there in the world right now. And shouldn't we be doing something about that? Rather than doing things that's going to make the situation worse? I mean, each and every one of us, if we have a conscience, instead of just saying, oh, well, and ignoring all those people that don't have any food to eat, and just because it's not in your country, just because it's in some other country, like Africa or someplace like that, the moral compass of the world, is needs to be re-examined as well, as far as I'm concerned, especially when it comes to things like war. It's absolutely horrendous out there that we are still being obedient to the leaders when they tell us get out there and kill one another, because it's not our choice. We as humanity, we sit back and we're peaceful, but it's the leaders that say, okay, it's time for war, here's the gun, go out there and use it. It's them, and it's their responsibility. And the fact that we still listen to them when they tell us to go to war. Shows that we are still a barbaric society and we haven't moved to the next level. And it's time to move to the next level now. It's time to put an end to wars and put wars behind us as a thing of the past. You know, the whole adage of never again. I mean, we are heading now toward a world war again. And it's all a matter of being obedient. Being obedient to despot leaders who want power and they want to expand their empires. And I'm not just talking about the East, I'm talking about the West as well. They're just as bad over in the West. They act like sheep in the West. They act like, oh, we're the good guys and everything. But you ever heard the old saying, it takes two to tango? You can't have a war, you can't dance on the dance floor unless you got a partner. And you can't have a war unless you're willing to get in there and fight too. You know, and the West is just as guilty as the East. The whole world's guilty of this, of being barbaric, just like we were back in the Middle Ages, just as bad as we were back during World War II. Because the war's ongoing and they feed it. How do they feed it? With weapons. I mean, the war would end if both sides decided to, hey, you know, we just ain't going to send any more weapons in there. But as long as they continue to both sides continue to put soldiers and weapons in there, the war will continue. And this is barbarism on a massive scale. And if nobody speaks out against it, well, we'll just keep moving forward with it until we start World War III. And we'll just keep moving forward. If nobody speaks out against it, we're just going to continue to move forward with it until we see the mushroom clouds. And then maybe a few hours or days later, the mushroom clouds will expand into every country on Earth. And then we'll all, few weeks and a few months later, we'll all be breathing in radiation. And our hair will start to fall out. And our teeth will start to bleed. And we'll start to bleed from our internal organs. And we'll all just lay down on the ground and go to sleep. Everybody on Earth. And the only thing that'll be left here is snakes and scorpions. Okay? Because we stuck with our barbarous past, and it was okay back when we were fighting with sticks and rocks, and he was even okay. I mean, it's not okay. Okay, it's not okay. But it's okay in the sense that we didn't completely destroy ourselves. That's the only sense it's okay in. But even though we didn't completely destroy ourselves, now we can completely destroy ourselves. So that's the reason why it's time for us to get over this childishness that the world is in. And time to reflect and say, hey, what in the hell are we doing? And why are we doing it? And why are we being obedient to these world leaders? Maybe it's time for some disobedience. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe disobedience is the answer. Because when they tell us to kill one another, maybe it's time for us to say, hey, you know what? We just ain't going to do it. In fact, even take it one step further and look back at the world leader and say, hey, why? Why are you telling us to do this? How evil are you? Point the finger back at him and say, why? Why? Just that one question alone. Why? Why should we go out there and pull the trigger on each other? Anyway, just having a little rant here. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the very next show. Bye-bye.